Have you ever put out a new offer, not heard anything back from anybody, not made any sales, and just gotten really tense and anxious and worried and afraid inside? Well, you're not alone. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about why your body freaks the F out in that critical pause between taking bold action in your business and seeing results. Plus, stay to the end, and I'm going to talk about how to transform this neurobiological response so that you can turn it from being your biggest obstacle into your breakthrough superpower. So, the big difference between entrepreneurs who break through and those who stay stuck isn't strategy, it's not mindset, it's how they navigate the terrifying gap between action and outcome. Let's be real, peeps. We all get the wobbles in that moment between taking a bold action in our business and seeing the results of that bold action. Because there is always a gap. There is always a pause. There is always a moment when you go, oh my God, is this working out? Oh my God, did I make the right decision? Oh my God, what am I doing? And in that critical gap, that is when we all tend to get the wobbles, what I like to call the wobbles. It's when we're going, uh-oh, I'm not sure I can trust myself. I'm not sure what I'm doing. And all of our old blocks and limiting beliefs and old stories about who we used to be come up and begin to turn on the worry and anxiety machine. They start to say things like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe nobody cares. Maybe I don't know, maybe this is the wrong thing. And we begin to crumble into self-doubt, fear, apprehension, worry, and guess what? Stress. And all of that ends up putting us into the stress cycle, which causes us to retreat from what it is that we've taken bold action on. We end up holding back and pulling ourselves back from the edge of our next evolution, from the edge of our, scaling to the next, up-leveling our business, our lives, our income, our success, our impact, our freedom, all of those things, because we don't know how to navigate that moment between action and outcome. And this is something that I have seen with almost every single entrepreneur that I have ever worked with, is feeling as though they don't know how to handle it in that wobbly bit, that they don't know how to stay strong and empowered and focused and persistent and motivated and on fire with belief and self-trust in that moment when they're not sure whether their action will lead to the outcome that they desire. Now, recently I did a podcast on, the fact that if we're waiting for certainty that an idea is going to work out, that we're basically screwing ourselves over, because you can never be certain that something's going to work out. We need to have clarity on our actions so that we can then feel clarity on our self-belief, our self-trust, and our confidence so that we can have patience and persistence and motivation to move towards the outcome. But if we are waiting for certainty that every single idea is going to work out, guess what happens is we never take action to begin with. Or when we take that action, when we don't see those immediate results, we begin to doubt ourselves. We begin to crumble. We begin to go into all that messy mindset stuff that ends up throwing on the handbrake on our finances, on our businesses, on everything. Now, like I said, this all relates to the stress response, right? It all relates to us slipping into that fight or flight response, that dysregulated nervous system that says, this thing isn't safe. This choice I made in my business isn't safe. This decision that I have basically doubled down on, that I'm taking a risk to dive into, isn't safe. And I need to protect myself, because this is what the subconscious mind does, is it tries to protect us from what it sees as a threat. It used to be lions chasing us down the road and trying to tromp our brain, the road, the path, the forest, whatever. In evolutionary times, But now it's things like taking a risk in your business, putting out a new offer, calling up a client and not hearing anything back, having somebody say no, whatever it might be. These things kick up stress and they make our physical bodies feel as though the risk, the choice, the decision that we're making isn't safe. And then that physical tension, that physical stress gives our subconscious brain feedback that this thing isn't safe. And then it holds us back. Our subconscious holds us back, and it holds us back by trying to put us back into our comfort zone. And this is why all of those old scripts end up getting kicked up again. All of those old stories, all of those limiting beliefs, all of those blocks, all of those things, those little doubtful voices, because they're trying to protect you from the risk of it not working out. And the subconscious, it's not a smart process. It's just an automatic process, essentially. It doesn't know that by holding you back from this thing not working out, it's actually holding you back from even having the opportunity to work out, right? Because what happens in this critical gap between action and outcome this is where, we end up doing things like self-sabotage. We begin doing things like not putting out more calls to action. We end up doing things like losing motivation during a launch where we're really excited, writing emails, posting on social, and we're not hearing what we want to hear. We're not seeing sales yet. And so we begin to slip into those limiting beliefs and all of those background factors that our subconscious is trying to utilize to keep us safe. I know it's not safe to not make sales, but and those things end up kicking up. And then what happens is that we essentially lose momentum. We lose motivation. We stop posting on social. We feel that maybe we're emailing people too much. We start to go into the old script of I'm bothering people if I ask for things, or if I put out, if I put up call to actions on my posts or whatever it might be. And we end up slipping into self-doubt. Maybe nobody wants to hear from me. Maybe nobody cares. Maybe this doesn't matter. Maybe I just don't know what I'm doing. And all of those things end up kicking up, and we lose motivation. We lose self-belief. We lose self-trust. We lose the ability to feel confident in our offer or our launch or our social media or our, whatever it might be that you're working on. And this is the system that happens when we don't know how to navigate that moment between action and outcome, when everything is completely uncertain and maybe we're not having the response that we want. This is the moment when it's so important to engage our inner resources to continue with that internal motivation, that intrinsic motivation, that feeling of momentum, no matter what is going on the outside, no matter what the outside world is showing us, feeling that self-trust, self-belief, and confidence that we are in the right place at the right time, and we are doing the right thing because we can trust ourselves. We are intuitively connected. We are making aligned decisions. And suddenly it feels less stressful because we are in that rock solid belief in ourselves and in our path that has nothing to do with these outside results. Now, do we want to look at our data and be able to tweak our funnel or our sales page or our Facebook ads or whatever we might want to, tweak to make the offer or the thing that we're doing work? Yes, of course. We don't want to ignore reality, but we don't want reality, as in the data, to rock the way we feel about the potential of this idea working out. Once we're able to play with it, tweak it, experiment with it, and change it to be something that will work out if, let's say, it's not going to work out. But the thing is when we're talking about the gap between action and outcome, action and results, most of the time it is going to work out. It's just that we get those internal wobbles. We get that self-doubt, that crushing fear, those worries, those what if, right? That end up basically tearing down the house, and we haven't even finished building it yet. We haven't even been able to maintain our focus long enough to build the whole frickin' house. And we've built the foundation. We've built the first couple things, the first level of the house. And then we're going, oh, I don't know if this is going to work out. I mean, look, the rain's getting in, but we haven't put the frickin' roof on yet. And we need to maintain our momentum. We need to maintain our focus. We need to maintain and persist so that we can get to that outcome, so that we can get our internal systems on board with continued movement and continued action and continued excitement and continued feelings of relaxation and fun and play in the doing of the thing instead of only with the outcomes of the thing. Because here's the thing, when we hang our entire self-worth, self-belief, confidence, trust on whether or not we get outcomes, what we're doing is we're outsourcing our power 100%. We are outsourcing our power to external validation of what it is that we're doing. Again, we want to look at data. We want to be realistic. We want to be able to tweak and refine, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you lose that internal fire inside of you, when you don't have external validation, whether it's making a sale, whether it's the money in your bank account, whether it's likes and comments on social media, whatever the heck it is that or mom and dad saying you did a good job or whatever. If you are hanging your self-belief, your self-trust, and your confidence on that, you will always be a prisoner to the way that the world is acting, to what is going on outside of you. You are allowing the world to dictate how you feel about yourself. You are allowing your business to dictate how you feel about yourself. You are allowing the day-to-day fluctuations in reality of what's going out here to dictate whether or not you get to feel good, whether or not you get to feel like confident, whether or not you get to freaking believe in yourself. And how disempowering is that? Well, I only get to believe in myself when somebody tells me that I can believe in myself because they liked my Instagram post. No, I only get to believe in myself when I make a sale. No, you've got to be the first sale in your business. You've got to be 100% sold on what it is that you are doing, on what it is that you are offering, on the value inherent in what it is that you are doing every day before you see any external results. And when you can do that, that is when you will see your finances shift. That is when you will see everything shift in your business. And frankly, it just becomes a lot more fun because how not fun is it to constantly feel like you're on a yo-yo of what other people think. Oh, I made a sale today, so I get to feel good. I didn't, so now I don't get to feel good. Oh, didn't get any responses to that email. Now I don't get to feel good. Constantly feeling as though your business is a gamble, like you're rolling the dice on, do I get to feel good today based on how other people are responding, based on did I achieve these specific outcomes today or not? No, we get to feel good every day. And when we empower ourselves to feel good in that wobbly bit, in that gap between action and outcome, that is when the results actually are far more likely to happen because we are in that sense, in that place of inherent motivation, of momentum, of continued persistence, of continued action, of continued doing. You see, we have to get resilient to things not always looking the way we want them to work, to things not always looking the way we want them to look, to things not always working out exactly on our timelines, to things maybe taking a dip one day, 1 week, 1 month. Do you think the biggest CEOs in the world, they have a bad quarter in their company, Zucky, do you think he has a bad quarter in his company? And he starts to doubt himself and he stops taking action and he goes into a Netflix binge because he is in a fight or flight response? No, he goes, okay, let's look at the data. Let's experiment. Let's try something new. I'm not going to take this on as it meaning anything about myself. I'm going to use this as information that will allow me to move forward towards the outcome that I want. And that's the kind of resilience that we want so that we are no longer doing things like taking these physical symptoms of stress and making them evidence that we've made the wrong move. We're no longer doing things like preemptively self-sabotaging our launch or offer because we're so uncomfortable with not having that immediate feedback that says we're doing a good job or we're on the right track. We're no longer becoming panicked and making decisions out of this panic to try to fix what might be broken instead of trusting that we can continue to take action before we see results. We are no longer harshly judging ourselves or allowing that inner jerk inside of our head to say mean things to ourselves. We're no longer vowing to ourselves, I'm never going to take another risk again. I'm never doing this again. I quit. Things like that, because we are not buying in to the old narrative that says, if I do not see results right here and right now, it means something is wrong. Now, part of the reason that this happens is another neurobiological concept of the dopamine hit, right? We like the dopamine hit of people liking our Instagram posts or commenting or making sales immediately. And it makes us feel excited and it makes us feel really good. And it makes us feel like, oh, I'm on the right track and this is great, right? But again, I'm going to go back to the concept that I was talking about earlier. If you are constantly allowing the world to dictate how you feel about yourself and how you feel on the inside, you're always disempowered because you're always dependent upon other people's perceptions and other people's opinions and other people's actions. And so when you can remove the desire for that dopamine hit, and we're not even going to talk about, reducing the need for the dopamine hit. Let's just talk about shifting the power of the dopamine hit and taking it out of the hands of other people and turning it into something that you can give yourself, that you can actually generate from the inside, then you become empowered to give it to yourself regardless of what the outside world is reflecting to you. So the long and short of it here is basically we have to allow ourselves to see that critical gap between action and outcome as a sign of growth, as an opportunity to be persistent, as an opportunity to engage with our leadership, to not be rocked by things not being exactly on the timeline or showing up in exactly the ways that we want them to, instead of it being something that feels dangerous and it being something that is an indication that something's wrong. That's first. Secondly, we need to regulate our nervous systems during that gap. We need to pay attention to when we do feel physical stress and when we do feel physical tension and take steps to utilize nervous system regulation practices to return to a baseline and a feeling of groundedness and solidness in ourselves so that we are not rocked off course and go into that stress response that I talked about earlier. This will then allow us to do things like stay in belief, stay in self-trust, stay in confidence in that critical gap. We can also do things like look at the things that are working instead of giving voice to that old inner critical voice, old inner critical narrative, old stories, old blocks, old beliefs that probably aren't even yours and come from the past, old traumas that want to kick up and say all those nasty things, and turn down the volume on that and turn up the volume on the things that we want to hear and the things that we want to believe, which then creates those dopamine hits that encourage us to stay motivated, stay persistent, stay on target, what's his name? Admiral Bug Eyes in Star Wars would say. So this is what happens when we empower ourselves to bring the source of confidence, self-belief, and self-trust inside of ourselves during that critical pause, not see it as a mistake, not see it as an indication that something's wrong, not see it as we have problems, not allow these things to come up, and allowing it to slide off of us. Almost like, we're made of Teflon and it just slides off of us. And when you can do that, and you can navigate those wobbles between action and outcome, you are standing in your true power as a badass entrepreneur, a badass CEO who is empowered to make more money, feel less stressed, and to create the freedom and joy and pleasure and fun and play all along the way, because it doesn't have to mean anything about you.